My sister invited my ex-fiancée, who cheated on me, to her wedding. I swore I wouldn't attend until her last-minute plea forced Maine to face them both. I, 32M, find myself in a difficult situation with my younger sister Rosie, 29F, regarding her upcoming wedding. To fully explain the situation, I need to provide some background about our family dynamics and my past relationship. Rosie and I grew up in a small town in Ohio, where everyone knew everyone else's business. Our parents, hard-working folks who owned the local hardware store, were always busy keeping the business afloat. As a result, Rosie and I became each other's primary support system from a young age. Being only 3 years apart, we shared many of the same experiences and challenges growing up. Our childhood wasn't always easy. Money was often tight, and we learned to make do with what we had. I remember countless nights where Rosie and I would huddle together in my treehouse, sharing dreams of leaving our small town and making it big in the city. We made a pact back then that we'd always have each other's backs, no matter what. As we grew older, our bond remained strong. When I left for college in Columbus, Rosie would visit me almost every weekend, crashing on my dorm room floor just to spend time together. And when it was her turn to go to college 2 years later, I was there to help her move in and get settled. It was during my senior year of college that I met Gina, 24F at the time. We were both interns at a local Freddie eating firm, and we hit it off immediately. Gina was everything I thought I wanted: smart, ambitious, and with a wicked sense of humor that kept me on my toes. We bonded over our shared love for obscure indie bands and our dream of making it in the advertising world. When I introduced Gina to Rosie, they clicked instantly. It was like watching two long-lost friends reunite. They shared the same taste in fashion, finished each other's sentences, and soon started having regular girls' nights out. Seeing the two most important women in my life get along so well made me feel like everything was falling into place. For 3 years, life seemed perfect. Gina and I moved in together after graduation when we both landed full-time positions at the same firm. We talked about marriage, kids, and building a life together. Rosie was thrilled, constantly hinting at how she couldn't wait to have Gina as a sister-in-law. But then, everything fell apart. It was a regular Tuesday evening when I came home early from work, planning to surprise Gina with tickets to see her favorite band. Instead, I was the one who got the surprise. I found Gina in our bed with my best friend Jake, 31M. Jake and I had been friends since high school. We were the classic odd couple: me, the quiet, studious type, and Jake, the life of the party. We'd been through everything together. He was there when I got my heart broken for the first time in sophomore year. I was there when his dad passed away during our senior year. Finding him with Gina felt like a betrayal of not just my relationship, but of our entire history. The next few weeks were a blur of pain and confusion. Gina tried to downplay the affair, claiming it was just a few meaningless hookups. But as the truth unraveled, I discovered that their relationship had been going on for 6 months. They had been planning to leave their respective partners to be together. The worst part was learning that many of our mutual friends knew about the affair but chose to keep it from me. I ended things with Gina immediately and cut ties with Jake. The betrayal left me reeling, questioning every relationship in my life. It was during this time that Rosie proved to be my rock. She took time off work to help me move out of the apartment I shared with Gina. She listened to me vent for hours, brought me food when I couldn't bring myself to cook, and even confronted Jake when he tried to apologize. Rosie's support during this time meant everything to me. She reminded me of our childhood pact, that we'd always have each other's backs. Her unwavering loyalty helped me start to rebuild my trust in people. Over the next 3 years, I focused on healing and personal growth. I threw myself into my work, eventually earning a promotion. I started therapy to work through my trust issues. And about a year ago, I met Kristen, 30F. With Kristen, I found a relationship built on mutual respect and open communication. She knows about my past and has been incredibly patient and understanding as I've worked through my lingering trust issues. Rosie, meanwhile, got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Freddie, 33M, 6 months ago. Freddie's a great guy. He's an elementary school teacher with a passion for community service. I was thrilled for them and immediately offered to help with wedding planning in any way I could. Everything was going smoothly until last week. Rosie called me, excited to share updates about the wedding plans. We chatted about the venue, the menu, and the guest list. And then, casually, as if it was the most normal thing in the world, she mentioned that she had invited Gina to the wedding. I was stunned into silence for a moment. When I found my voice, I asked her why she would do that, given everything that had happened. Rosie's response left me speechless. She said, "Come on, it's been 3 years. Gina and I have remained friends, and she's important to me. I want her at my wedding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I reminded Rosie of how Gina had betrayed not just me, but her as well. How Gina's actions had caused so much pain and upheaval in our lives. But Rosie brushed it off, saying that while she understood it was a difficult situation, she had forgiven Gina and hoped I could be mature about it for her sake. The conversation quickly escalated. I told Rosie that I wouldn't attend the wedding if Gina was going to be there. It wasn't just about seeing Gina, it was about the principle of the matter. How could my own sister, who had been there for me during the darkest period of my life, now invite the person responsible for that pain to one of the most important days of her life? Rosie accused me of being selfish and making her wedding about my past issues. She said I was putting her in an impossible position, and that as her brother, I should be supportive of her choices. She brought up our childhood pact, saying that having my back didn't mean excommunicating her friends just because things didn't work out between us. The argument ended with both of us angry and hurt. Rosie hung up on me, something she'd never done before. In the days that followed, our parents got involved. They sided with Rosie, telling me I needed to get over it for the sake of family harmony. They argued that it was Rosie's day, and she should be able to invite whoever she wanted. My mom even suggested that this could be an opportunity for closure, but I can't shake the feeling of betrayal. It's not just about Gina being there, it's about what her presence represents. It's about Rosie choosing to maintain a friendship with someone who hurt me so deeply and now expecting me to just accept it. I'm standing my ground, but now I'm starting to wonder if I'm overreacting. The wedding is in a month, and this issue is causing a rift in our family. Rosie and I have barely spoken since our argument, which feels wrong given how close we've always been. Part of me feels like I should just suck it up and go to the wedding for Rosie's sake, but another part of me feels like this is a line I need to hold. I'm tired of being expected to be the bigger person while others disregard my feelings. Am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my ex who cheated on me? Or am I justified in standing my ground? It's been a week since my last post, and I want to thank everyone for their responses. Reading through your comments gave me a lot to think about and helped me gain some perspective on the situation. After my initial conversation with Rosie, things were tense between us. We didn't speak for a few days, which felt strange and uncomfortable given how close we've always been. Our parents kept calling, trying to mediate, but I wasn't ready to budge on my stance, and Rosie seemed equally unwilling to change her mind. 3 days ago, I decided it was time to reach out to Rosie. I figured we needed to have a calm, honest conversation about this whole mess. We agreed to meet at Rosie's diner, the same place where we used to grab milkshakes after school and talk about our dreams and problems. Walking into Rosie's was like stepping back in time. The worn red vinyl booths, the jukebox in the corner playing oldies, even the smell of coffee and grilled onions. It all brought back a flood of memories. Rosie was already there when I arrived, sitting in our usual booth by the window. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes, and I realized the situation was taking its toll on her too. We ordered our usual chocolate milkshake for her, vanilla for me, and sat in awkward silence for a few minutes. Finally, I took a deep breath and started talking. I told Rosie how hurt I was by her decision to invite Gina. I explained that it wasn't just about the cheating, but about the betrayal of trust and the pain that Gina and Jake's actions had caused me. I reminded her of how she had been there for me during that difficult time, how her support had meant everything to me. I also opened up about my ongoing struggles with trust. I admitted that even though I've been in therapy and have made progress, the thought of being in the same room as Gina on what should be a joyous day filled me with anxiety. I was worried it would bring back all those feelings of betrayal and inadequacy that I've worked so hard to overcome. Rosie listened patiently, stirring her milkshake absently. When it was her turn to speak, she surprised me. She admitted that she had been struggling with this decision for months. Apparently, Gina had reached out to her shortly after the engagement, expressing how much she wanted to be part of Rosie's big day. Rosie felt torn between her loyalty to me and her friendship with Gina. What shocked me even more was when Rosie revealed that Gina had been going through some personal struggles of her own. She had been diagnosed with a chronic illness shortly after our breakup, and Rosie had been one of her main support systems. I had no idea about any of this. Rosie explained that she felt guilty about potentially excluding Gina from such an important event, especially given what Gina was going through. She also admitted that she had hoped that enough time had passed for wounds to heal, and that maybe this could be an opportunity for some kind of reconciliation. While this information didn't change how I felt about Gina's presence at the wedding, it did help me understand Rosie's perspective a bit better. We talked for hours, really diving into our feelings and concerns. We reminisced about our childhood, the pact we made, and how we've always been there for each other. By the end of our conversation, we came to a compromise. Rosie agreed to uninvite Gina from the main wedding ceremony and reception. However, she asked if it would be okay for Gina to attend the smaller, more intimate bridal shower that her friends were organizing. Rosie promised that I wouldn't have to interact with Gina at all, and that she would make sure Gina understood the boundaries. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me still felt uncomfortable with the idea of Gina being involved in any way, but I could see how much this meant to Rosie, and I remembered all the times she had compromised for my sake over the years. Finally, I decided I could live with this arrangement. It's not ideal, but it allows Rosie to maintain her friendship with Gina without making me uncomfortable at the actual wedding. We also agreed that we needed to work on our communication. Rosie promised to be more considerate of my feelings in the future, and I promised to try and be more understanding of her friendships, even if they involve people from my past. As we were leaving the diner, Rosie hugged me tightly and thanked me for being willing to talk things through. It reminded me of all the times we'd solved problems together as kids, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I'm still processing everything, but I feel better about the situation. I'll be attending the wedding, and I'm actually looking forward to celebrating my sister's special day without the cloud of this conflict hanging over us. There's still some tension with our parents, who think I should have just let it go from the beginning, but I'm standing firm in my belief that my feelings were valid. Rosie and I are planning to have a family dinner soon to clear the air with everyone. I know this compromise isn't perfect, and part of me still feels uneasy about Gina being at the bridal shower. But I'm trying to focus on the positives: my relationship with Rosie, the upcoming celebration, and the fact that we were able to work through this together. Thank you all again for your advice and support. It really helped me navigate this difficult situation. I'll update again if anything significant happens, but for now I'm cautiously optimistic about moving forward. Update 2. It's been about 3 weeks since my last update, and the wedding is now just a few days away. I wish I could say everything has been smooth sailing, but unfortunately, that's not the case. After Rosie and I reached our compromise, things seemed to be getting back on track. We had a family dinner where we explained the situation to our parents. They weren't entirely happy with the solution, but they were relieved that Rosie and I had worked things out. We even started joking about old times, and for a while, it felt like the dark cloud over our family had lifted. Rosie had her bridal shower last weekend. As agreed, Gina attended, and I wasn't there. I spent the day with Kristen, trying not to think about what was happening at the shower. Kristen suggested we go hiking to take my mind off things, and it helped. For a while. When we got back from our hike, I had several missed calls from Rosie. My heart sank. I knew something must have happened. I called her back immediately, and she answered on the first ring. Rosie's voice was shaky as she told me what had transpired at the bridal shower. Apparently everything was going well until one of Rosie's friends, probably after having a few too many mamasas, made a tactless joke about Gina being the almost sister-in-law. This led to an awkward silence, followed by Gina bursting into tears. According to Rosie, Gina then proceeded to give an emotional speech about how much she regretted her actions, how she had been going through a difficult time when she cheated, and how she wished she could turn back time. She talked about her illness and how Rosie's friendship had been a lifeline for her. The shower essentially turned into an impromptu therapy session for Gina, with many of the guests comforting her and telling her it was okay. Some even suggested that enough time had passed and that I should get over it. Rosie was calling me because she felt terrible about how things had unfolded. She apologized profusely, saying she never intended for the shower to turn into a pity party for Gina. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. She asked if I would reconsider having Gina at the wedding. I was stunned. We had an agreement. We had worked through this. And now, because Gina had a meltdown at the bridal shower, everything was up in the air again. I told Rosie that I needed some time to process this information. I hung up and felt a wave of anger and betrayal wash over me. It felt like I was right back where I started, with my feelings being dismissed for the sake of keeping the peace. I spent the next couple of days in a daze, trying to figure out what to do. Kristen was supportive as always, offering to skip the wedding in solidarity if I decided not to go. But I knew that would only cause more problems. Yesterday, I finally called Rosie back. I reiterated my position. I would not attend the wedding if Gina was there. I reminded Rosie of our agreement and how much it had meant to me that she understood my feelings. I told her that while I sympathized with Gina's struggles, it didn't change the fact that her presence would make me extremely uncomfortable on what should be a joyous day. Rosie got defensive. She accused me of being inflexible and unable to forgive. She said that Gina's speech at the shower had moved her, and she felt like she needed to stand by her friend. We argued for what felt like hours, rehashing old hurts and bringing up childhood promises. The conversation ended with Rosie telling me that she was going to invite Gina to the wedding, and it was up to her not. She said she hoped I would choose to be there for her, but she would understand if I couldn't. I'm writing this update mere days before the wedding, and I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. Part of me wants to stick to my guns and not attend. Why should I put myself in an uncomfortable position just to make everyone else happy? But another part of me can't bear the thought of missing my little sister's wedding. We've been through so much together, and the idea of not being there on her big day breaks my heart. Kristen thinks I should go to the wedding and just avoid Gina. My parents are pleading with me to be the bigger person. My friends are divided, with some supporting my decision to skip the wedding and others telling me I'll regret it if I don't go. I feel like I'm being forced to choose between my own mental well-being and my relationship with my sister. It's tearing me apart. I've barely slept in the past few days, constantly turning the situation over in my mind. I know I need to make a decision soon. The wedding is this Saturday, and I feel like I'm tearing my family apart. But I also feel like I need to stand up for myself. I'm tired of being expected to be the bigger person while others disregard my feelings. I'm honestly at a loss about what to do next. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How did you handle it? It's been 2 months since Rosie's wedding, and I've had a lot of time to reflect on everything that happened. I know many of you have been asking for an update, so here it is. After much soul-searching and several sleepless nights, I decided to attend the wedding. It wasn't an easy decision, but in the end, I couldn't bear the thought of missing such an important day in my sister's life. I told myself I would go for Rosie, avoid Gina as much as possible, and try to focus on celebrating my sister's happiness. The day of the wedding was a whirlwind of emotions. I arrived early to help with last-minute preparations, partly to keep myself busy and partly to show Rosie that I was there for her. When I saw her in her wedding dress, all the anger and frustration I'd been feeling melted away for a moment. She looked beautiful and so happy. We hugged, both of us teary-eyed, and in that moment, I knew I'd made the right decision in coming. As guests started to arrive, I stuck close to Kristen, using her as a buffer. I caught a glimpse of Gina across the room a few times, but managed to avoid any direct interaction. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Watching Rosie and Freddie exchange vows, I was reminded of the power of love and forgiveness. It didn't erase my past pain, but it did give me a new perspective. At the reception, I mostly stayed with my family and friends. However, about halfway through the evening, Gina approached our table. My heart started racing, and I could feel Kristen squeezing my hand under the table. Gina looked nervous but determined. She asked if she could speak with me privately. After a moment's hesitation, I agreed. We stepped out into the garden, away from the noise of the reception. Gina started by apologizing not just for her past actions, but for the recent drama surrounding the wedding. She explained that she never intended to cause problems between Rosie and me, and that her emotional outburst at the bridal shower came from a place of guilt and regret. She then opened up about her health struggles and how Rosie's friendship had been a lifeline for her. She said she understood if I could never forgive her, but she wanted me to know how sorry she was for all the pain she'd caused. I listened quietly, feeling a mix of emotions I couldn't quite name. When she finished, I took a deep breath and told her that while I appreciated her apology, I wasn't ready to forgive and forget. However, I also said that I was willing to be civil for Rosie's sake. We rejoined the reception, and for the rest of the night, there was an uneasy truce. It wasn't perfect, but it was manageable. I focused on celebrating Rosie and Freddie, dancing with Kristen, and enjoying time with family and friends. In the weeks following the wedding, Rosie and I had several long conversations. We both acknowledged that we had made mistakes in handling the situation. Rosie apologized for going back on our agreement and for not considering my feelings more carefully. I apologized for allowing my past hurt to overshadow her special day. We've been working on rebuilding our relationship. It's been a slow process, but we're making progress. We've started having weekly sibling dinners again, just like we used to. Sometimes we talk about what happened. Other times we just enjoy each other's company. It's not always easy, and sometimes old hurts resurface, but we're committed to moving forward. As for Gina, we're not friends and probably never will be. But I've reached a point where I can be in the same room as her without feeling overwhelmed by anger or anxiety. It's a small step, but an important one. This whole experience has taught me a lot about forgiveness, not just of others, but of myself. I've realized that holding on to anger was hurting me more than anyone else. I'm not saying I've completely let go of the past, but I'm working on it. Kristen has been my rock throughout this entire ordeal. Her unwavering support and understanding have made me appreciate her even more. We've actually started talking about our own future together, and I'm excited about where our relationship is heading. My relationship with my parents has improved too. After seeing Rosie and me make amends, they've become more understanding of my feelings. We've had some good conversations about respect and boundaries within the family. Looking back, I still believe that I had valid reasons for feeling hurt and betrayed. However, I've also learned valuable lessons about communication, empathy, and the importance of family. While I can't change the past, I'm focused on nurturing my relationships moving forward. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this journey. It's been a challenging few months, but I feel like I've grown a lot. Life is complicated, and there's rarely a perfect solution to complex emotional situations. But I'm learning to navigate these waters, and I'm hopeful for the future. If there's one thing I'd like people to take away from my experience, it's this. It's okay to stand up for your feelings, but also be open to understanding others' perspectives. And sometimes the path to healing isn't about forgetting the past, but about finding a way to move forward despite it.